Hi everyone, welcome back to the class PM and this is Mr. Bilal, and in this video we will discuss about the food chain. What is food chain? Actually, in the previous videos I have given an idea about the food chain, about the flow of the energy, but in this video we will discuss briefly. We will discuss in a thorough manner what is actually food chain and how it is defined and how it can be very much how it can be explained in a better way. We will discuss it in this very video. That is the what is food chain, how food chain occurs, how much food chain, what would be the, what is the size, what would be the size, what must be the size of the food chain, and we will also discuss about the food web, what is food web, and next we will discuss about the flow of the energy, and we will also discuss about this what are different pyramids, what are pyramids, and what are the different types of the pyramids based on the transfer of the energy in the ecosystem. So first of all, we will discuss in this video what is food chain. What is food chain? In the previous videos, please recall in the previous videos I have discussed that example with respect to the autotrophs, that is plants being eaten by the grasshopper, and that grasshopper was eaten by the frog, and that frog was finally eaten by the snake, and snake was eaten by a top consumer, and that top consumer in that very example was the hawk. So here you see the plant, this plant is being eaten by the grasshopper, and this grasshopper is being eaten by the frog, and this frog is being eaten by the snake, and this snake is being in turn eaten by the hawk. So what is the food chain? The food chain is actually the process by which an organism eats and is being eaten. The eating of an organism and is being eaten. Simply the series of the organism, the series of the organism in which every next organism depends upon the previous one. Every next organism depends upon previous one. Every next organism depends upon previous one. Here every next organism depends upon previous one. Snake depends upon frog. Frog depends upon the grasshopper. Grasshopper depends upon the plants, and hawk in turn depends upon the snake. So this is the food chain, the series of the organisms in which every next organism depends upon the previous one. So these are eating. Plants are being eaten by grasshopper. Grasshopper is eating by grasshopper is eating plants, and grasshopper is being eaten by the frog. Simply frog eats the grasshopper, but frog itself being eaten by the snake. So eats and being eaten. This is the process of the food chain. And in this case, the size of the food chain may vary, and it depends upon the organisms you are talking about. If we see in case of the animals, or in case of the ponds, in the water, if we see the water has the alga. So I already explained what is algae. That outgrowth on the surface of the plant, on the surface of the water, due to the excess nutrients, due to the contamination of the water. That those green plants, you can see the top layer of this water surface, those are called the algae. So these algae in the ponds are being eaten by the insect. So these algae are being eaten by the insects. These algae, how they grow? Algae grow with the help of the photosynthesis, because they can synthesize their own food. They are autotrophs. They synthesize their own food. They grows in the water. But these algae in turn are being eaten by the insect. So these insects in turn are being eaten by the fish. Fish is present in the water, and these fish ultimately are being eaten by the bird. Some bird comes and eats this fish. So this is the this is the food chain. Food chain may be short and food chain may be long as well. You can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 living organisms related to this very food chain. But you can see 1, 2, 3, and 4. Only 4 living organisms are there in this very food chain. So food chain may be long and food chain may be short. But guess what, guys? Very important point for us to understand is about the food chain. That is this concept I was actually given in the theory, that the hypothesis, in an hypothesis, it is called as energetics hypothesis. Energetic hypothesis. Energetic hypothesis says that the food chain should and must be very small for better efficiency, better stability, the food chain must be very short. There is a logical reason about it, because as in the previous video we have explained about the 10% law. According to the 10% law, about 90% of the total energy is being dissipated either as a heat, or 90% of the total energy is being utilized by an organism. An organism, suppose when a herbivore eats upon the producer, when the producer is being eaten by the herbivore, about 90% of the total energy is being either dissipated as a heat, or the 90% of the total energy is utilized by that herbivore for their metabolic activities. So only 10% of the energy is transferred. If we see the 10% of the energy, suppose 1000 joules are here in this plant, and among the 1000 joules, grasshopper utilizes only utilizes those 1000 joules, but grasshopper can only store 10% of those 1000 joules, because of the fact that 90% of the that energy is being either dissipated or utilized. So only 10% of that 1000, that's only 100 joules would be stored in the grasshopper, and this grasshopper would be eaten by the frog, and 10% of that energy which is stored in the grasshopper would be available for the frog, because 90% of the energy would be utilized by that frog, or most of the energy would be dissipated as a heat. So only 10% out of 100%, the 10% of the 100 joule is only 10 joule, that is 10 joule will be available in the frog. So as we move from low tropic level to high tropic level, what I actually mean to say that when we move from low tropic level to the high tropic level, the amount of energy decreases. So guess what? If we there are 5 living organisms in this tropic level, guess what? If it would have been 7 or 8 living organisms in this very tropic level. Guess what? If there would have been three more living organisms in this very chain, so how much organisms would have been available for this very organism? Nothing. Literally negligible, and this would extinct. This would not survive. This cannot survive. This may not survive. That is why, remember, if food chain is the short, the transfer efficiency is very, very high, and the very high amount of energy would be available to the top consumer if this food chain is short. But if food chain is long, the top consumer, the organism which will feed upon the at the top of the tropic level, they may contain very less amount of energy. Very, very negligible amount of energy would be available at the top. Those organisms which would feed on the top of the tropic level. So in this way, we can say that there must be very less amount of living organisms in a particular food chain for better stability, for better results, for high amount of energy, for the availability of the energy. The number of organisms must be less in a particular food chain. See here, algae is eaten by insect is eaten by fish is eaten by the bird. So if we see, algae is an autotroph producer, the first tropic level. So here first tropic level. Then this insect eats the algae. So this is a herbivore. This insect is the herbivore. It eats the producer. So it eats the producer. This eats the producer. So this is the herbivore. This is the second tropic level. So insect is eaten by fish. So fish is the carnivore. That's the third tropic level. And the bird is at the top of the tropic level. So it's a top carnivore. This top carnivore eats the fish. So this feeds on the tropic level. As we move from low tropic level to high tropic level, the amount of energy available would be very less, because only 10% of the energy would be transferred from low tropic level to the high tropic level. So in this way, we can see that energetical hypothesis says as it explains to us that the food chain should and must be very short for better transfer efficiencies. So next and important point which I explained in the previous video also, that is the flow of energy is always unidirectional. It cannot be bidirectional. Flow of energy starts from the autotrophs itself, and it is being transferred from low tropic level to the high tropic level. It starts from the autotrophs and it is being ultimately sent to the top consumer. Amount of energy will be sent to the top consumer. small amount of energy would be available to the top consumer, because according to the 10% law, 90% of the energy is dissipated as heat. So we see see here the plant is being eaten by the deer, and deer is eaten by the lion. Lion cannot eat by lion is not being eaten by the deer, but lion eats the deer. So there the energy cannot be reversed. Flow of energy cannot be reversed. It cannot be from low tropic level, from high tropic level to the low tropic level. It is always from low tropic level to the high tropic level. So the deer is being eaten by the lion, but lion is not being eaten by the deer. So energy is always unidirectional. Only 3 tropic levels as short food chain is there. The tropic level is only 3. Only 3 tropic level, that is producer, and that is consumer, producer, producer, herbivore, and carnivore. This is the short tropic level. So what is the ultimate source of energy for producers, for consumers, for primary consumers, secondary consumers, top consumers, and for each and every living organism? The ultimate source of energy is the sun. It is the sun which gives you the light to the producer, available for the producers, and producers can utilize the fraction of that light in order to show the process of the photosynthesis, so that they can synthesize their own food, and that energy would be stored in those autotrophs, in those plants, and finally those plants would be eaten by the herbivore, and there would be the transfer of the energy, and from herbivore to carnivore, and carnivores to omnivores, the energy would be transferred. So please remember that the ultimate source, where the ultimate source of the energy come from, the ultimate source of the energy is the sunlight. So how plants convert this energy into the chemical energy is important for us to understand actually. But I have already explained in a video, in the previous video, the process of the photosynthesis. This is the process. Due to the process of the photosynthesis, plants can convert this light energy from the sun into the chemical energy by the process of the photosynthesis only. So what is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is the process. It is the process by which the light energy is converted into the chemical energy. The light energy is converted into the chemical energy by the plants with the help of the chlorophyll molecules. This light energy is converted into the chemical energy, and this chemical energy is in the form of chemicals, in the form of ATP, in the form of GTP, or in the form of reducing agents such as NADH. And those those ATPs are those reducing agents, those NADH and ATPH are actually the source of the inner chemical energy, and those chemicals can be utilized in order to fix the carbon dioxide to form the carbohydrate. You know actually what is photosynthesis. You know the meaning of the photosynthesis. You know the process of the photosynthesis. Light energy converted into the chemical energy. Chemical energy would be in the form of ATP, GTP, and these utilization of this chemical energy to drive the CO2 fixation, to fix the CO2 molecule. Why there is a need to fix the CO2 molecule? Because in our surrounding, in the surrounding of the plants, there is present water and there is present carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide has to be converted into a source of energy. This can be converted into the carbohydrate molecules. This can be converted into the sucrose. This can be converted into the glucose for for energy purpose. So in order to fix this CO2 by the plants, it needs the energy, and this energy is the chemical energy ATP and GTP. And where this come from? Where this ATP and GTP or NADH came from? They came from the light. And how this is being converted? This light energy is being converted into the chemical energy. This tells you the process of the photosynthesis. So simply, plants can convert the light energy in the form of the light energy to the chemical energy in the form with the help of the photosynthesis. And if we see when the plant captures the light from the sun, when it captures the light, most of the energy is lost in the surrounding and rest is stored. Only 1% of the total light is absorbed by the sun. Only 1% of the total energy available, only 1% of the total light available in the environment is captured by the sun. And actually this 1% of the light is absorbed, captured and converted into the chemical energy. The plants are eaten by the primary consumers. Plants are eaten by the primary consumers such as herbivores. Primary consumers are also called herbivores, and the energy which was stored in the plant is being transferred into the herbivore, and this would be finally transferred to the secondary consumer, then tertiary consumer, then to the top consumer. But during the course of the transfer, most of the energy is being released in the or dissipated as a form in the form of heat, or most of the energy is being utilized. Only the fraction of the energy is being transferred. Only the 10% of the energy is being transferred according to the Lindemann, the process called the 10% law given by the Lindemann. So this is all about what is food chain and what is the flow of the energy, how the energy flows from low tropic level to the high tropic level. This is the form of the pyramid. Pyramid is a triangular shape. It may be erected, it may be inverted. It depends upon the which type of the pyramid you are talking about. We will discuss it in the next part of this video. What is pyramid and what are the different types of the pyramid. But before that, I must mention here the food chain is explained in a very narrow sense compared to the food web. Food web is in the broad sense. Food web is explained in the broad sense. I will tell you one example. With the help of example, I will give you a brief information about the food web. Suppose this is the producer. This is the producer, and this is eaten by herbivore, and this herbivore is eaten by carnivore. Simply, this producer is plants, and this herbivores could be grasshopper. Suppose grasshopper, and this carnivore would be suppose frog, and this would be eaten by top consumer. Simply, see the producer, herbivore, carnivore, and top consumer. This will eat, producers will be eaten by herbivores, and herbivores would be eaten by carnivores, and carnivores would be eaten by this will be the secondary consumer. This is the primary consumer, herbivore. This is the secondary consumer, and this is the tertiary consumer. This is the secondary consumer. This is the producer. This is the herbivore, which is also called a primary consumer. This is the secondary consumer. This is the tertiary consumer. Tertiary consumer, and this should be the top consumer. Suppose herbivore is the primary consumer, it is grasshopper. But this is being eaten by the secondary consumer. Secondary consumer, we have here the frog. Secondary consumer is the frog. And third consumer is the snake here. But important is this, that frog is being eaten by snake. Only snake cannot eat frog. Frog is by eaten. Apart from snake, there are some other organisms as well which can eat the frog. There is an example flow chart. This is the example. This is the food example. See here, this is the grass, and this grass is eaten by the grasshopper. This grass is the producer, and this producer is being eaten by the grasshopper. Grasshopper is the primary consumer. A primary consumer, grasshopper, is being eaten by the secondary consumer, the frog. But understand, this frog can be eaten by snake. By this frog can be eaten by this very animal as well, by this very living thing, living organism. This can also eat the frog. So frog is eaten by either snake or by any other living organism. So it is not mandatory that only snake will eat the frog. The frog will be eaten by any other animal. So there is literally a web of the food in which on one organism, more than one organism depends. And one organism is being eaten by more than one organism. A secondary consumer is being eaten by a tertiary consumer, but not only one tertiary consumer, it is eaten by more than one tertiary consumer. See here, there is a frog. Frog is eaten by snake, but only snake is not there who can eat frog. Frog is eaten by any other living thing also. So any living organism can eat frog apart from snake. So there is literally a web of the food. This process called the food web. This is called the food web. This form is the food web. What is food web? Food web is the series of the organisms. Food web is the series of the in which an organism can be eaten by more than one other organism in a tropic level. More than one organism in that particular tropic level. Suppose primary consumer, secondary consumer is there. Suppose if frog is the secondary consumer, it is being eaten by the tertiary consumer such as snake. But only snake is not there in the tertiary consumer. which acts as a tertiary consumer. Snake is not the only which acts as a tertiary consumer. There are some other organisms as well in that which acts as a tertiary consumer and which can eat the frog as well. So literally there is a web of the food in which one organism can be eaten by either one organism or more than one organism in the successive trophic level. So this is about the food web. In the next video we will discuss about some aspects about that what are pyramid, what is pyramid, shape of the pyramid, and what are the different types of the pyramid.